Do not adjust your television set or your computer monitor. You are not seeing double. What you are seeing are two same model Zeniths. These are both Zenith G516s. One of them works, one of them doesn't. One of them has a nice case, one of them has a busted case. So this is going to be an episode about making one good radio out of two. It's a real shame. This one was donated a while back, and at first I was like, this is in really good shape. It's missing a huge chunk out of the back, and ordinarily, if it were some other common radio, I'd probably restore it and say, call it a day, because the people that buy these from us kind of don't care. And we don't charge a huge amount for these things. If this is fully restored, this is a more desirable model. You're probably looking at $120 or something like that. We do not sell online. It's just too much hassle with all the shipping and stuff. Now, full disclosure, I already tested these, and the one on the right doesn't work. The one on the left does. The one on the right buzzes. The one on the left sounds fine. They both had all of their original components, which is not surprising. And they need, well, this one is going to get a full overhaul. I'm going to start with the one, I'm going to use this one since it works already, so it's just a recap job. This one needs a recap job too. But I'm going to transfer the guts of this one into that one, and vice versa. I'll make sure and put the guts from this one in here so that this one has a fighting chance in the future if someone wants to take it on. Maybe they could patch up that back and paint it, because these did come in a bunch of colors. I believe these came in white, black, green, gray, bakelite color, which is what this is, and maybe red. I can't remember all the colors they came in. They call them owl radios because they kind of look like an owl. I'm not sure if the designer was thinking about that. Surely at some point during the design process it did occur to them, but there's a whole fleet of these Zeniths that all came out at the same time. Transistor radios, they're tabletop radios, and there's some smaller portables that use that same design. So let's take this apart and see what we need to do here. I pulled this out and took this off, and there's the underside. I'm amazed it actually worked. You look at this cap here. It's got the ends blown out. That's probably shorted. Yeah, you see that? That incinerated itself, so that's bad. This one up here is pretty bad too. Now sometimes that can be caused if it was stored somewhere really hot, but yeah, that looks like that got overheated. That could mean a couple of different things, but whatever it means they need to go. These are a little bit more of a challenge because unlike some of the manufacturers, and I love Zenith, so I'm not going to bash them too much, but they didn't provide a plug for the clock. But what I'm going to do, there's only these two wires going to a chassis, so I'm just going to desolder those, and I'll leave this attached because it's easier than instead of soldering all these wires. And then we can proceed to do the recapping job. Actually, what I want to do is pull that clock out. To remove the clock, you take these three nuts off, and generally the whole thing should come out. At least I think that's the word, should be in the operative word. I can't remember if it pulls out and back or if it pushes out in front. If it pushes it out in front, then I've just wasted my time here because I'll have to desolder that, which is a pain, but we'll see. Well, I thought I was being clever, but in reality you do have to disconnect all the wires because the clock comes out at the front. And the other thing too is I noticed that the surrounds for the clock and the station indicator are different. This one has kind of a shiny finish and this one's dull. So I'll need to take this escutcheon off too, and it's held in with these little twisted brass clips. You just gotta straighten them out and then push it out. Alright, so I cleaned up all that mess. We got our escutcheons and the clock that'll match for the new cabinet. But I need to replace the two electrolytics that are inside this black canister. It's a cardboard covering an aluminum can. And it's hard to see this, but it's a floating ground. There's a plastic spacer that the electrolytic capacitor sits on, and you use its negative as the floating negative or the floating ground for the electrolytics. And we're going to replace both of those that are inside that can with these two little guys. And it's a challenge because there's not a lot of room in here. I've done a few of these, so obviously there's a way to do it. I just forgot. Beyond that, there's these 3 paper capacitors. The rest of these are ceramic, and they don't need to deal with those. Those are fine. So not a lot to replace, but it's definitely cramped in here. So let's replace those 2 and see if it still works. Because sometimes I fix things that are easy, or they seem like they should be easy, and then they don't work when I try them again, which is very frustrating. All right, so I got these 2 electrolytics installed. I know it's not the prettiest thing, but I don't have room. I just got to find places where they'll fit. So these guys need to be replaced too, and they have their values written on them already. It says 0.02 microfarads, 400 volts, voltage DC. That's the maximum it can work with, and it's not going to work with anything close to that because this is a transformerless set. It's going to see like maybe 110, 120 volts, and that's it. So you just look for the values and replace like with like, and that's all there is to it. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. I'm just glad that Zenith was one of those companies that started using ceramic caps pretty early, because otherwise I would have had to have replaced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more capacitors. There's simply not any room in here. These ceramic disc caps don't take up a lot of room, and they're good as long as they're not physically damaged. I've had one smoke on me because it came into contact with another part of the chassis, but other than that, they're pretty reliable. Well, that wasn't too bad. I got all those capacitors replaced, and now the big question is, does it still work? So let's plug it in. Got my death wires connected, and yep, got filament, so it's on. I know that's hard to see. Let's see, where's the volume? I believe it's up here. Volume control is really dirty, but it does work, so that's the important thing. I've also got some dust in the tuning condenser that can cause some problems too. Let's use a soft paintbrush sometimes to get in there and remove all that. And then we'll need to clean the volume control. So let me take a look at that. It's got a little hole in it right here where I can squirt juice. All right. Let's fill her up with juice. There we go. Now that might clean it up a little bit. Let's try it again. All right, let's make sure it's turned all the way down so I don't blast my ears off.
Yeah. 10332 1074 510 see that from
Never take your own revenge, beloved, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord.
So much religious crap on AM radios. I'm at a point now where I'm going to put money down that a lot of people that are on those radio shows are probably not very good Christians. Anyway, fight me in the comments. I don't care. Anyway, I'm not in a very good mood. I am still getting over COVID. I've had it for about a week. It's not been that bad, actually. I've been dreading this for years, and I finally got it. And so far, I'm surviving it, which is good. I'm going to clean up the top here. Kind of clean up the... This is aluminum. You see if it's pouring rain out there. We don't get a lot of rain in California these days, but is it pouring? Nope. I can take it outside and use my leaf blower to blow it off. Okay, I took it outside and most of the dust came off and I wiped down everything. You don't have to do that, but I'd do it. This is the volume control up here, and why am I mentioning that? Because I'm going to add the audio input feature. This volume control has wires and cabling that run all the way to here. And what I want to do is when I add an audio input, which means you can add your Bluetooth or your CD player or whatever audio device through this, you want to temporarily have the ability to have the radio signal disconnected so you can turn the radio off and on, meaning the signal, not the radio as far as the tubes and stuff. And that wire's coming off of the volume control, and then that's immediately going over to the 12 AV AT6 tube. I'm trying to remember what's the first audio. It might be 12BE6, but that's my assumption that if I clip that green wire right here, that will kill the radio signal. Okay, so I clipped that wire, and now what we get is, can't really hear it because I've got the radio going in the background too, but there's nothing here but hum. That's what you want. Actually, the antenna is not fully connected. Alright, that volume is cranked all the way. Probably gonna be more like that. Maybe that's not right the way. Maybe that's not the right place to clip. Huh, I've never seen this before. Look at this. This volume control has like a clear plastic insert. Huh. Fascinating. Why did they do that? Huh. Interesting. Cool. I've never seen that before, and I've worked on probably a few hundred of these AA5s. I'm not super happy with that. Now, granted, I've got this long antenna here. Could be that it won't be that sensitive. But I don't like that sound. I want a clean audio, so I'm going to clip somewhere else. All right, well, I looked at the schematic, and I clipped the wire off the first audio. And now that's all I get. It's just a little bit of hum. So I'll just put a little switch between this wire and that connection off the 12BE6, and that will be the means to turn on and off the radio signal. And meanwhile, I'm looking at this, and I was thinking, do I need to drill a hole here? Because we've got this hole here already. Perfect for running my audio cable through. Yeah, I think that'll work. I mean, this thing has to stick out, so it could stick out a little bit there. And what I could do is I need to put an isolation transformer in here. This is to electrically isolate the user from this. And, I mean, right now there's probably hardly anything on it because it's, but, actually there's something I forgot to do on this that I meant to do. And it's a pretty obvious mistake. Let's see, where is it? There should be a capacitor in this set that goes to chassis ground. And that being the case, that one should be replaced with an X2, Y2 across the line capacitor, and not one of these yellow Mylar capacitors. And I think I just found it. It's this one. That's the wrong value and the wrong type of capacitor. Now, it's unlikely this would happen, but the theory goes, if the set was struck by lightning or something horrible happened to it, then what if that capacitor were to fuse solid, like all the aluminum foil fused together? That would make this a dead short to chassis and it'd be a shock hazard. So we're going to replace it with a better capacitor that won't do that, and it's safer. All right, let's do this. So what I did is I used the hole that was already here to put a little rubber grommet in, and I'll glue that later. And I have a stereo cable coming in. We've got our right and left and our ground. The red and the white in this case is our right and left, and the yellow is ground. I get some of this stuff from China, and like there's no adhered color code or anything. It's just like you just have to figure it out each time a new shipment comes in. It's like a new surprise. Excuse me. Anyway, we'll need to we'll need to combine the right and left channels together. So I'm going to do that with a pair of these 30 ohm resistors. We'll twist two ends together and we'll have two ends free, and the right and left channels will go to the free ends. Likewise, we want to make sure that the radio part is happy. So I'm looking for a capacitor that I should have gotten out before I started filming. Here we go. I have found over time that the transformers, if they're left in circuit, can affect the radio sound quality. And so I'm going to put a little shunt in between the transformer and the volume control. And it's going to be the 270K resistor with a 0.02 rated cap. And the capacitance is not super important. You just want something there. And that'll ensure that your audio for your radio signal, the way it sounds, is going to sound just as good. And then you'll also have your guaranteed safety and fidelity with your isolation transformer. And this, again, is going to be feeding into here. This is the volume control connection. So it's different than what I usually do. Usually I'd attach it to the near the volume control, but the volume control's out here. So since I have access to its thingamabobs, I'm going to put it here. All right, well, I've got everything kind of wired up and ready. But before I glue this in, I want to make sure that my guess here wasn't really a guess. It was an assumption that this would be the right connection.
Really cared for me.
Low battery.
Oh, crap. Well, I gotta charge the battery, but anyway, that works. And now I have the switch to turn the radio off reliably. So I'm gonna glue this thing here on the side. And then I'm also going to run a short length of wire out for a switch for turning the radio signal off and on. And that'll go through one of the holes with a little micro switch. So electrically, we're just about done already. And I've only been doing this for about 30 minutes. All right, so we got that installed, and I know that doesn't look very pretty, but even though I've glued it with super glue down to the side here, if that ever were to burst loose, I want to make sure all those connections up top are covered so it's not going to hit anything electrical. And it's a tiny little chassis. And don't worry, you can get this off of here. It's not that hard. This is just insulating. It's hot glue. Yeah, I know it looks ugly. I know. Oh, let's see. Something else I want to do is there's a little rip in the speaker here and here, and one up here. And those will just get worse unless you patch them. So I'm going to use this flexible glue to dab on some of these. Then I need to fix the tuning string, which has come loose. And luckily it's all there, so I don't have much to cut. I use some fishing cable up here for that, but we'll get to that after I fix these holes and also button this back up so I'm not going to have crap exposed. I don't know why, but this took longer than I thought it would, but I finally got this restrung. I don't know why, I sometimes have a hard time with the simplest stringers. And I've done some weird German and Dutch sets that are way more complicated. Oh well, maybe it's just because I'm not feeling that great, but whatever. Alright, so now that the electronics are taken care of, time to move on to the cabinet. It's important with the Bakelite that you are gentle with it. It gets its shine from the molding, and it's very easy to damage that finish. So all I'm going to use to clean it up with is this Meguiar's Caranuba paste wax. Kind of smells like bananas, and I use my mechanical buffer because that saves my hands. So the idea is to try to return the luster and shine of that Bakelite as close to being what it looked like when it was new from the factory, because it probably looked pretty sparkly. Welcome to day 2 working on the Zenith Owl Eyes clock radio. I had to turn in a little bit early yesterday. I just wasn't feeling very good. I'm having a Paxlovid rebound, and from what I understand, the reason it sometimes does that is because Paxlovid is an antiviral, and it does a very good job of nuking the virus. And so for the first 5 days that I had the medication, I felt normal. I was like, I've got this thing nipped in the bud. What it's supposed to do is prevent you from getting hospitalized or getting an extremely bad case of it. And so far, what happened is after I ran out, over the next 2 days after that, I gradually started feeling sick. Right now I feel like I have a moderate cold. If it stays like this, then I can deal with that. My wife, on the other hand, got it last year, and we didn't have the Paxlovid, and she was miserable. She was knocked out for days. So, I know that there's probably a lot of old folks on here. So if you can get your hands on a box of that stuff and keep it in your medicine cabinet, and do so, you'll thank me later. Now, moving on from that, which is unpleasant, it's time to reassemble the radio. Last night, I spent some quality time buffing this out. As I said, you don't want to use anything like any sort of strong cleaners or anything on this. I didn't use any cleaners at all. I just used car wax. And you can see how beautiful that looks. It's kind of hard for this camera to get it, but you can see like the depth of that finish. And Bakelite brown was one of the most common colors because it was made out of organic material. And this one looks a little more orange, in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. It's like asking someone to describe what wine tastes like. So just like how it came apart, this needs to go back together in reverse. So the clock goes in, its back goes on. I need to put the escutcheon back on before I put the radio back in. And then we'll put the back on, and hopefully she will be done.
He said, where's my daughter? She's been so hurt. We went upstairs to get...
You know, I just realized I totally forgot to put the indicator back on there. That's easy. You just pop it on there. There we go. So that's the Bluetooth running through it. Check this out. I found found the manual for it. There was this packet that was in it when I got it. It's just instruction manual for Zenith. I like how they've written it in the electrical Z for Zenith. That's probably more rare than the radio. No one held on to these things. Most of warranty 90 days. Make sure and put that back in there, and I'll have to come with it. But anyway, that's the Bluetooth. And then if I unplug this, there's a little switch in the back here. And there's your radio.
Had evil thoughts or dark thoughts. Or in search for destined.
Your diabetes and
Yankee career
in the community.
that has a C-17 aircraft. You know, they're not out there taking pictures of, lettuce.
Yes. Relatively calm now. We're seeing some scatter showers.
All right, well, it works. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Until the next time radio comes across my workbench. See you guys later. Bye-bye.